Before I start this video, I have to admit something. I lied. I didn't actually watch 100 Nicolas Cage movies, guys. I'm sorry. But I did watch 25 Nicolas Cage movies purely out of this curiosity. I knew I liked Nicolas Cage in National Treasure and a few other movies, and I was like, the reality of the situation is I haven't seen that many Nicolas Cage movies, and so I just embarked in early October 2022 on a journey to just watch a bunch of Nicolas Cage movies. Ended up watching 20 in a relatively short period of time, a couple weeks. Trust me, guys, you have to give yourself some space in between these, and was also watching other movies. But here I would just like to chronicle my journey in what I called the Cageathon. An epic journey from one of Nicolas Cage's first movie, his first starring role, I believe, in Valley Girl, all the way to the unbearable weight of massive talent. Let me take you guys on my journey. This is the Cageathon, the Nick Cage video. Here we go. In Valley Girl, Julie, a girl from the Valley, figures, meets Randy, a punk from the city. They are from different worlds and find love. Somehow they need to stay together in spite of her trendy, shallow friends. That is the most generic, the movie doesn't really deserve any more than this synopsis, but that's pretty generic. This movie was a horrible place to start, and the best possible place to start on this journey, because there is simultaneously so much to say about this movie, while it also, to borrow a word from that synopsis, it's so shallow. There's just so little to it. It's entertaining, sure, it's fun to watch, but what are we actually getting away from this movie? I mean, we could talk about Nicolas Cage in this movie. We could talk about the dialogue in this movie, which is pretty insane.
Fuck off for sure, totally.
It sounds like if it was someone today in an SNL sketch or whatever, making fun of the way they talked in the 80s, but this movie was actually made in the 80s. And this is just actually the way they wrote the movie, so I guess it is sort of a reflection. This movie, it feels like a time capsule just in the dialogue, just in the script alone, because it sounds so alien, it's so weird. It sounds like it's a satire of itself. You could talk about the horny mom subplot, which is one of the most baffling. I'm going to get way off track. We need to move on. But because I could just talk about Valley Girl this whole time, but I don't really want to do that. Anyway, there's a mom in this movie who is attracted to a teen guy, a high schooler, and he doesn't look like a high schooler. He looks like he's a grown man, or at least a college student at the very least, who goes to her daughter's school, and there's a whole subplot with that, and with just scenes of just the mom and just the kid. And you can imagine where it goes. And this movie is rated R, and it is surprisingly graphic, surprisingly inappropriate. I wasn't really expecting that going in, but just to let y'all know, there's plenty of nudity in this thing, if that's something that you're into. There's a lot of that in this movie. Cage is wonderful in this. It's one of the reasons this is one of my favorite Cage performances, one of my favorite roles. He hams it up. He eats up the screen. He's easily the best part of this movie. And the best Nicolas Cage movies, as you are going to learn when you watch 25 Nicolas Cage movies, are the ones where he is the best part of the movie. Those are the best ones, because you just get this feeling, this appreciation for this man who's just embodying this character. And it's just, I can't recommend this movie enough just for him. If you're a Cage fan, don't miss Valley Girl. It's pretty good. I was not prepared for this next one. Terrence McDonough is a New Orleans police sergeant who receives a medal and a promotion to lieutenant for heroism during Hurricane Katrina. Due to his heroic act, McDonough injures his back and becomes addicted to prescription pain medication. He then finds himself involved with a drug dealer who's suspected of murdering a family of African immigrants. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if my voice is on the verge of laughter. This is such a ridiculous synopsis. It's such an insane movie. It feels wrong of me for the sake of you watching this very long video to say this, but this is the most, this is the second movie I watched on my Nick Cage binge, and it is the most insane Nicolas Cage movie. It is the most insane Nicolas Cage performance. Easily. This movie has Val Kilmer in it and Michael Shannon in like a cameo role, like as like an intern for like literally like 5 minutes of screen time. And I don't know what to say about this movie. Nick Cage has a lucky crack pipe in this movie.
What the fuck's that?
It's my lucky crack pipe.
You a crazy motherfucker.
You don't have a lucky crack pipe?
And the crack pipe is like, this is sort of a theory of mine. It's extremely important to the plot of this movie and the progression of the character study, which this movie is. It is a character study of an insane cop with a lucky crack pipe. You have to see it to believe it. It really is. Cage is a force of nature in this movie, but his performance he just does this shift about halfway through the movie, and it is related to the lucky crack pipe, but he has this shift where he goes from acting like this, and then he starts talking with like a stutter or like a Tourette's thing, and he just starts talking different in the second half of the movie, and it really threw me off, and it was really annoying at first. I say at first, it was kind of annoying the entire time. I don't know why he did that, but the movie is just totally insane. It might be a masterpiece. It might be really bad. It is After Hours cracked out uncle. It's absurd. Give it a shot. You just might love it. This was legitimately very unsettling. Leaving Las Vegas is the tale of an alcoholic who falls in love with a prostitute, and it is an alcoholic who wants to kill himself and plans on drinking himself to death in LA. This movie is kind of in the golden age of Nicolas Cage, the mid-90s. Cage was really just on fire, and he got an Oscar for this movie. He got the Oscar for Best Actor. It is his only Oscar, and that is such a shame because this is definitely not even one of the better Nicolas Cage performances, in my opinion. The performance is so bizarre and inhuman, and Cage himself claims that the role in his performance was authentic. It was based off of a performance by another actor who was playing an alcoholic in another movie, but it is just, it's hard to watch. It's just legit such a grimy and disgusting movie, and Elizabeth Shue is unbelievably amazing in this movie. If you are going to watch this movie, watch it for her. Do not watch it for Cage. She deserved the world for this performance. She deserved the Oscar. She was nominated for Best Actress and she didn't get it. And if I could go back in history and steal Cage's Oscar away from him and somehow, give Elizabeth Shue the Oscar for Best Actress, she deserves it because she just killed it. She breaks your heart in this movie, and it's very hard to watch. The movie deals with, I don't know if I could say this word, deals with rape, something that happens in the movie, and it's just very unsettling. It's not even particularly graphic, but this movie just made me feel kind of disgusting afterwards. You kind of want to take a shower after watching this one, but I can't say that it's a bad movie. It's just one that I felt very miserable while watching and after watching it. A change of pace for this next one. It's the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Oh yeah, Willy's Wonderland. When his car breaks down, Nicolas Cage's car, a quiet loner, Nicolas Cage, agrees to clean an abandoned family fun center in exchange for repairs. He soon finds himself waging war against possessed animatronic mascots while trapped inside Willy's Wonderland. Critics kind of hated this one, didn't respond too well, the audience reaction wasn't too positive, but this is pretty much the best case scenario for a movie with, this type of budget, this type of quality, with this type of plot. I really couldn't have asked for much more It's Nick Cage killing a bunch of animatronics in a pizza animatronic pizza place. I don't know if it's a pizza place specifically. It's like Chuck E. Cheese, it's like Five Nights at Freddy's. It's like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and apparently they're making a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. But for now I'm happy with this. I feel like this honestly will end up being better than the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, because it won't. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie is probably going to take itself too seriously, as most horror movies do. But this is just a fun time. I don't have a lot to say about it. Surprisingly, sadly, shockingly, I just don't have much to say about it. Nick Cage starring in a H.P. Lovecraft horror story adaptation? Sign me up. In Color Out of Space, the Gardner family moves to a remote farmstead in rural New England to escape the hustle of the 21st century. They're busy adapting to their new life when a meteorite crashes into their front yard, melts into the earth, and infects both the land and the properties of space-time with a strange, otherworldly color. To their horror, the family discovers the alien force is gradually mutating every life form that it touches, including them. Before watching this movie, I didn't know if I liked or disliked body horror, and after watching the movie, I can say that I think body horror is pretty cool. Honestly, this movie is pretty cool. It is very well made. The horror elements, it's not particularly scary, but I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to be weird, because the original story is weird. Lovecraft is weird. He's also racist, but this movie it even kind of plays on H.P. Lovecraft being racist with some of the characters and some of the things that happen in the movie. I'm trying not to do any spoilers. This video is spoiler-free, but there is some body horror, and there's a really cool, CGI sequence near the end, and, I kind of messed with this. It isn't the best movie ever. It definitely has flaws. It can be a little bit boring even at times. It's just, the characters are pretty thin, but I had a good time with it. I would recommend it. Check out Color Out of Space. This is the second Shudder original Nick Cage movie that I watched. Red and Mandy lead a loving and peaceful existence, but when their pine-scented haven is savagely destroyed, Red is catapulted into a phantasmagoric journey filled with bloody vengeance and laced with fire. It's got drugs, it's got hippie cults, it's got animated sequences, it's got this crazy demon biker gang, it's got a wolf, it's got a lion, it has a chainsaw fight where Nick Cage has a chainsaw and he fights another guy with a chainsaw. It's like a lightsaber duel. Like picture, Star Wars 3, lava everywhere, but it's smoke everywhere, and we got chainsaws. We got chainsaws going at it. If that doesn't sell you on the movie, then you might as well not watch it, but I'll tell you, if I was you and I was watching this video and I just watched me say all of those things, I would be so freaking pumped to watch this movie, and you should be. If you fit that description, if you share my enthusiasm for chainsaw fights, because this movie's kind of awesome. It's kind of great. Cage is awesome in it. Check it out. It's very cool. Next, we got Lord of War. Yuri Orlov is a globe-trotting arms dealer, and through some of the deadliest war zones, he struggles to stay one step ahead of a relentless Interpol agent, his business rivals, and even some of the customers who included many of the world's most notorious dictators. Finally, he must also face his own conscience. If you like the sound of Nicolas Cage's voice, check this one out, because he just narrates so much of the movie, so much narration, and with some of the most pretentious writing. If you like Aaron Sorkin, you'll like this movie, because it's kind of in that vein of just every line is like a bar, every line is a quip, it's something clever and ooh, I gotcha, I'm really smart. And a lot of the times it does work. It makes the movie more entertaining. If every movie was written like that, every movie would be a little bit more entertaining. But it can get a little bit irksome, a little bit annoying. This movie has Morbius in it. Morbius plays his younger brother. It also has Ethan Hawke. Bro, we got some MCU people. Ethan Hawke, he's in Moon Knight. Let's freaking go. The cast in this movie is good. And it's an entertaining movie. I think it is just very pretentious and just a little bit annoying in that way. But a lot of people vibe with this movie. A lot of people really do like this movie. I'm not crazy about it, but I do think it is very entertaining and actually is pretty well written overall. And of course, the actors actually do a good job. Jared Leto does a good job. So give it a watch if you're interested. You might like this one. Now we're getting into good stuff. In Face Off, Nicolas Cage plays a bad guy, Castor Troy, and John Travolta plays a good guy named Sean Archer. But they switch bodies. When Nick Cage is in the prison, like that whole sequence, the prison fight sequence, is just some of the most beautiful acting, like, ever. It's so amazing. And Nick Cage, like, he says this is his favorite thing that he's ever done. In interviews, he's very quick to bring that up. Like, I love my work in Face Off. And it's really something pretty amazing. He's amazing playing the bad guy. He does a really good job being the good guy. And people thinking that he's the bad guy. It's hard to explain. The movie sounds very convoluted. It's actually not that hard to follow. It's a good time. It's a popcorn movie. And if you haven't seen this one, this is one of the most critically acclaimed and beloved Nicolas Cage movies. And for good reason. It's a great time. Spoiler alert, but not actually. I'm not actually spoiling the movie, but I might as well because this movie sucks. Entrapped in Paradise, residents of a friendly Pennsylvania town foil three brothers' plan to rob a bank on Christmas Eve. That is a spoiler. That is totally a spoiler. I didn't know that was going to happen when I watched the movie. I didn't know it was going to work out like that. I mean, you could guess. It's a pretty predictable movie. It's paint by numbers. I highly recommend you rent this movie on Amazon. If you're going to watch it, I don't recommend you watch it. It's a terrible movie. If you are going to watch it on Amazon, because on Amazon you get these IMDb notes about the movie, and all the notes are about how the movie sucks and how the people involved in the movie hate that the movie exists and hated working on the movie. It's so funny. Like the IMDb fun facts of this movie are hilarious. I was gonna sit here and read them to you, but I really just want to keep going. We've got a lot to talk about. We're on number 9, I think. We got lots of movies, lots of Nicolas Cage, but this is a really bad, unfunny comedy. The ultimate sin it commits is it being a comedy and just being so unfunny. Like, there's like one entertaining sequence like really near the beginning of the movie that was kind of like Dog Day Afternoon type of vibes, which is a weird comparison, but it really did feel kind of like that. And that was a cool scene. And then after that, the movie just sucks. It is so not fun to watch. It's draining and just so unfunny. I'm sorry. It's a bad movie. If you told me that there was a Nicolas Cage action movie that I would enjoy more than Face Off, I would not believe you, but here we are. In The Rock, FBI chemical warfare expert Stanley Goodspeed is sent on an urgent mission with a former British spy, John Patrick Mason, to stop General Francis X. Hummel from launching chemical weapons on Alcatraz Island into San Francisco. General Hummel demands $100 million in war reparations to be paid to the families of slain servicemen who died on covert operations. After their SEAL team is wiped out, Stanley and John deal with the soldiers on their own. This movie is directed by Michael Bay, and it stars Nicolas Cage, Sean Connery, and Ed Harris. Oh my goodness, this cast is amazing. Sean Connery is an actor that I really only knew as Indiana Jones's dad in that Indiana Jones movie, and he's awesome in that, but he's really great in this, playing this kind of felon, this bad dude who they need to work with to break into the thing. And then Ed Harris is playing this kind of complicated, complex villain who was a good guy, he was a soldier, but he wants to, help out soldiers, thinks they're being mistreated, and in doing so, he threatens to kill a bunch of people, and you got all this moral dilemma going on with the villain, and this movie is just so entertaining. It's just so fun to watch, and, I legit, there's moments, because frickin' Face Off is so long, there are moments where you can get disconnected. And this movie's pretty long too. It is over 2 hours, but I was on board the entire time, which is a very high compliment. It's also an action movie. I'm not a big action movie guy. I was in it. This movie's awesome. And of course, it does have flaws. It's a Michael Bay movie. Objectively speaking, you could pick this movie apart and criticize it, but please don't. Just make some popcorn and watch it, and I can recommend this to anyone. It's a great time. This one got me. I cried just a little. Jack's lavish, fast-paced lifestyle changes one Christmas night when he stumbles into a grocery store holdup and disarms the gunman. The next morning, he wakes up in a bed lying next to Kate, his college sweetheart he left in order to pursue his career, and to the horrifying discovery that his former life no longer exists. As he stumbles through this alternate suburban universe, Jack finds himself at a crossroads where he must choose between his high-powered career and the woman he loves. This movie wasn't entirely new to me when I watched it for this video, for this binge. I watched it with my parents, but the only scene I could remember from the movie, when I watched it when I was very young with my parents, the only scene I remember is when the girl, the actress, I don't know how to say her name, I'm not even going to try. The character's name is Kate, and Kate is bought like a sexy dress, and she wants to impress Nicolas Cage, even though he's a jerk, even though it's kind of hard to explain. It's another kind of body switching kind of movie, but that's the only scene I remembered as a child. Yeah. The Family Man is my favorite type of movie. It's a dramedy. It is a drama comedy, and I'm so happy to say that this movie has plenty of both. I was shocked at how funny it was. I laughed several times watching this movie, and even if I wasn't laughing out loud, I was like kind of laughing internally. And it's a very sappy movie. It is so freaking like it's gonna make some people sick. If you don't like overly wholesome movies, you will not like this movie. Or overly corny or predictable movies. It's so corny. It's so predictable. But guys, the VHS scene made me cry. I teared up during the VHS scene. It's a wonderful scene. I'm sorry. The Family Man made me cry. I liked the movie. Yeah, this one's pretty weird. In The Weatherman, a Chicago weatherman, separated from his wife and children, debates whether professional and personal success are mutually exclusive. I love how short that synopsis is, but that really doesn't tell you anything about the plot of this movie, and I don't really have to get into the plot of this movie to just tell you that I don't really recommend this one. Cage really does do a good job, and that's something I should have mentioned in The Family Man, but Cage just, if it was anyone else in that movie, it would be like, okay, but Cage just brings so much to the role and so much passion and energy into the character and the performance, and I would say that he does a good job in this, even though he's acting significantly more deadpan, a little bit more depressed even, but this movie it just leaves you kind of empty by the ending. Like, I didn't really get a lot away from this, and I know a lot of people did. The man, Roger Ebert, really personally got a lot out of this movie. Maybe it's just not relatable to me in my early years being a college student. I haven't had this pull between work, this struggle between work and family. I don't have a family in that sense. I don't have kids. I'm not married. Maybe it's relatable later on, but the film is just kind of, it's a little bit gross. Specifically, the stuff that's going on with his daughter and his son. The stuff with the daughter bothered me more than the stuff with the son. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into it on here, but I think some of the even comedic beats of this movie are just so... It's like a deadpan, a black comedy, a deadpan comedy, and the comedy just sat really sideways with me. Like, I didn't think this movie was funny, and some of the jokes made me a little bit uncomfortable. I can't recommend this one, really. It's not a bad movie, and there's one particularly great scene that I won't spoil that has something to do with archery. There's a lot of stuff with archery in this movie, but there's one particular scene with Nicolas Cage holding a bow, and I'll be real, that scene was gold. Besides that, I did not enjoy watching this one. I was quite miserable watching this movie. But it's not a bad movie per se. This is the last of the big three Nicolas Cage action movies that are fairly commercially successful and well-known and popular, all of which I had not seen before doing this binge. So let's get into it. In Con Air, Nick Cage plays a guy who is wrongfully incarcerated from Alabama. He lays on that accent thick, who just ends up on a plane to transport. He's finally free. He served his sentence. He's going to go see his daughter and his wife, and he ends up on a plane with the worst convicts on the planet, the worst dudes you've ever seen, a stacked cast. And then Of course, they take over the plane. Let me just say, synopsis of this movie, the plot, amazing, golden. Nick Cage ending up on a plane. He's a kind of a hardened guy. He's a good guy, but he did something, he got him in jail. And then he's on the plane with the worst dudes, and the worst dudes include Dave Chappelle and John Malkovich and Danny Trejo, and I probably said his name wrong. The guy Machete is in this movie. I get so excited talking about this movie in concept and theory, because in concept and theory, this movie should be like the best action movie ever. And really, when it comes down to it, it's actually kind of boring. Surprisingly, not the most entertaining or gripping or investing movie that I've ever seen. Cast is awesome, though. Everybody in this movie does a great job except for Nicolas Cage. Steve Buscemi's in this movie. I don't know if that's a spoiler, because you could just look up the cast, but I didn't know that he was in this movie, and it was an amazing surprise, 'cause he was so good in this movie. John Malkovich is great. Danny Trejo is great. Dave Chappelle is great in this movie. John Cusack showed up. He did his thing. Give the movie a shot. You might like this movie. I think most people like this movie more than me. It is a dumb movie. It is definitely a flawed movie, but you might have a good time with this one. Kind of surprised I liked this one as much as I did. In Adaptation, a love-torn scriptwriter grows increasingly desperate in his quest to adapt the book The Orchid Thief. It's a Kaufman movie, and I'm just now realizing how many movies there are where Nick Cage plays multiple characters, or he has to get into the mindset of there's a character and he has to get in the mindset of a different character, and from between The Family Man and Face Off and this, it's kind of exhausting. I really don't know how to talk about this movie, given just how freaking dense it is, other than recommending it and saying it's a very, very good movie. Cage was nominated for Best Actor for his performance. I could rewrite history, I would give him the Oscar for this movie and take away his Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas and give it to Elizabeth Shue. I'm still on about that because she was amazing in that movie. But hey, it's a great performance. He plays two characters. He plays himself and his brother. This was a big Oscar movie. Got a bunch of nominations. It won some Oscars, I think, or more than one. Chris Cooper got an Oscar for this. It's got Tilda Swinton in it. It's got Meryl. Stacked cast. I just have to keep recommending it because it's a great movie. This next one is a national treasure. Modern treasure hunters, led by archaeologist Ben Gates, search for a chest of riches rumored to have been stashed away by George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin during the Revolutionary War. The chest's whereabouts may lie in secret clues embedded in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and Gates is in a race to find the gold before his enemies do. In other words, guys, it's freaking Indiana Jones with Nick Cage. Indiana Jones starring Nicolas Cage. I don't know if you heard me right the first time. It's Indiana Jones starring Nicolas. This movie is freaking awesome. It's my first Nicolas Cage movie, and I kind of rewatched it for this because I was getting a little tired. I was getting a little tired of these big, serious movies or action movies after Con Air, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. And I was kind of dejected because I was, kind of hyped for it. It sounded so cool. And then Adaptation is just so dense. It's a great movie, but I was just weighing me down, this heavy, serious movies got big themes. Then you watch National Treasure, and it's like Riley is so lovable and awesome, and this movie is so fun. I've seen it so many times, and it's so good every time. If you haven't watched this one, if I could recommend one Nick Cage movie from this whole video, from all the movies I talked about, and including the ones I'm about to talk about, just watch this one. It's not even the best Nicolas Cage movie. It's just the one that you need to watch if you haven't seen it. It's awesome. Bringing Out the Dead. 48 hours in the life of a burnt-out paramedic. Once called Father Frank for his efforts to rescue lives, Frank sees the ghosts of those he failed to save around every turn. He has tried everything he can to get fired, calling in sick, delaying taking calls, where he might have to face one more victim he couldn't help, yet cannot quit the job on his own. Bringing Out the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's the best Nicolas Cage performance. Every single actor in the movie murders it. They absolutely destroy. It doesn't even matter if you've heard of the actor or not. They're all incredible in this movie. Martin Scorsese directs the hell out of it. It's just incredible in every single degree. I could not recommend it enough. I'm not saying a lot about it because I just think you should watch it, so just go watch it. This one is pretty bad. Prisoners of the Ghostland. In the treacherous frontier city of Samurai Town, a ruthless bank robber is sprung from jail by wealthy warlord the Governor, whose adopted granddaughter, Bernice, has gone missing. The Governor offers the prisoner his freedom in exchange for retrieving the runaway. Strapped into a leather suit that will self-destruct within 5 days, the bandit sets off on a journey to find the young woman and his own path to redemption. I honestly believe that the director, Sion Sono, I don't know if that's how you say his name, tried with this movie. I honestly believe he had a vision, like a creative vision, and that he's like, I'm going to do my thing, and it's going to be weird, but it's going to be my thing. It's going to be my movie. And I just think the execution was just very poor in so many different ways, and it's just, I can't recommend the movie. Nick Cage screams the word testicles in the movie really loud.
If you had told me 3 days ago I'd be standing here with one arm and one testicle!
And that's my selling point for the movie, because besides that, there's not a lot this movie has to offer. And then I watched National Treasure 2. In National Treasure 2, Benjamin Franklin Gates and Dr. Abigail Chase re-team with Riley Poole and, now armed with a stack of long-lost pages from John Wilkes Booth's diary, Ben must follow a clue left there to prove his ancestors' innocence in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. I'm sorry, that is the dumbest plot of any Nicolas Cage movie. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie has a better plot than this movie. While you're watching the movie, you totally don't... That doesn't even feel like what the movie's about. Like, that's technically on paper what the movie is about, but you don't even think about that because it's so petty. It's like, who cares? Who cares if your relative, who cares if you're related to... I would think that's cool. If I was related to John Wilkes Booth, or my relative was involved in that assassination, I would, totally be, parading that. I'd be telling everyone that. I have a relative, I'm loosely related to Bonnie from Bonnie and Clyde, and I tell everybody that because it's cool. Come on, man. The movie is fun. It is objectively very dumb. The suggestions this movie makes about, conspiracy theories are so funny. There's, conspiracy theories kind of, in the first one, but it's not really about that. This movie leans a little more heavy into that territory, and, JFK and, the moon landing being fake. This movie's a hoot. It's a hoot. I know that's not something people say, but, that's the best way to describe it. National Treasure 2 is a hoot. Give it a watch. Next... Please excuse me, this is the worst synopsis. Out of all of these, this is the worst one. Just buckle in, because this is a bad synopsis. Las Vegas showroom magician Chris Johnson has a secret which torments him. He can see a few minutes into the future. Sick of the examinations he underwent as a child and the interest of the government and medical establishment in his power, he lies low under an assumed name in Vegas, performing cheap tricks and living off small-time gambling quotation marks, winnings. But when a terrorist group threatens to detonate a nuclear device in Los Angeles, government agent Callie Ferris must use all her wiles to capture Chris and convince him to help her stop the cataclysm. Think Minority Report, but starring Nicolas Cage and very incompetent in plot and stuff like that, because it's on paper it sounds kind of cool, not with that synopsis, but getting to see into the future, and he's a magician, it's in Vegas, it's a cool setting, kind of a cool sci-fi twist. But the movie itself is I don't have a lot to say about it. There's a major, massive, huge Breaking Dawn Part 2-esque twist by the end of the movie. And it kind of worked for me. It made the movie just a little bit more interesting. But I think that's a place where the movie loses a lot of people, loses critics and audiences. But the movie itself is just kind of fine. It's kind of dumb. And the last one I watched for the Cage-a-thon, for this binge of Nicolas Cage movies, here it is. In the unbearable weight of massive talent, Nicolas Cage plays a fictionalized version of himself. A kind of cartoonish version of Nicolas Cage, the one that we see in the media. He's extravagant spending, doesn't really know how to do family life, and he is called up by Pedro Pascal, who says, I'm going to give you like $1 million if you just hang out with me for like a bit and just kind of, show up. And Nicolas Cage, who is low on funds, agrees, and chaos ensues. I am so sad to say that I was not a big fan of this movie. It's a modern comedy, and it is not that funny. I thought the Lil Nicky jokes were funny, and I thought that the, what's it called? The Paddington 2 joke, the jokes, it's kind of a running gag, was funny. Besides that, and also Pedro Pascal was excellent in this movie. He did a great job. I'm happy for him in The Last of Us. I'm happy that he's like, that show was popping off and like people are praising him and knowing that he's super talented because he's great in this movie. He is the unbearable weight of massive talent. I honestly liked him better than Cage in this movie. It is a movie. And you can watch it if you want to watch it. You can pay money to watch it. I think you can watch it on Stars. Go ahead and watch it if you like watching movies and you want to watch this movie. There are 5 Nicolas Cage movies that I watched that were not part of this binge, not part of this, like the Cage-a-thon is what I called it. And you can actually track my reviews of these movies on Letterboxd if you want. My Letterboxd name is Mac Music Review. You can just search it up on there. If you don't know, it's like film social media. You can see all the movies that I watch from in the past and forever into the future, starting today when you subscribe to me on Letterboxd. See all the movies that I'm watching. But I'm just going to rapid style review these ones, give you my quick thoughts in like one sentence or 1 sentence or 1 or 2 sentences. I don't know why I'm like hyping up this section so much. Let's just hop right into it. Much better than it should be, and Cage got his dream role, so I'm happy. Very bad, but very fun to watch with other people. Not my thing, but Cage was definitely the highlight. Johnny has his hand. The longest 90-minute movie I've ever seen. Not the best Cage performance. Cage has a small role in this one, but he's perfect in the movie. Also an amazing movie. Now, I know that you're wondering, what did you learn from this experience? What did you get out of this torture that you put yourself through? It wasn't really torture. It wasn't that bad. There were a few bad ones. Most of them were pretty good. I learned that Nicolas Cage is my favorite actor. That's what I got out of this. I can see he's a lot of people's favorite actor. He's so prolific. And he's very good. I mean, even if he's in like a kind of a bad movie, not the really bad ones he couldn't save. He could not save Trapped in Paradise or Prisoners of the Ghostland. But when Nick Cage is even in a mediocre movie, or a movie that's probably like a 6 out of 10 movie, putting Cage, or 5 out of 10 movie, like The Family Man, and then Cage comes into it, and the movie is just so much better result. Mandy, Cage makes that movie. A lot of these movies, you could say that the movie would have sucked, even if it wasn't that great of a movie, it would have really sucked without Nicolas Cage, because he just puts so much effort and heart and soul and passion. Even if he's giving kind of a weird performance is better than a forgettable performance, and I really love Nicolas Cage for that. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I know it's a long one. If you watch the whole thing, I don't know why you did that. It's not well edited enough or interesting enough, you wasted your time. That's what I'll say. You could subscribe if you want to. I never ask people to subscribe, but if you made it all the way to the end, I feel like we have like a connection. I'm going to stop talking. I don't know what I'm doing. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great rest of your day.